Hi everybody, Mrs. Heil here. We're going to be learning some basic anatomy for radiology. This should be a review for most of you, and if it's not and you need additional help, we can certainly work on that. But before we can start to really look at x-rays, read x-rays, we just need to remember some of the anatomy we've learned in the past. So we're going to start with something simple, just body directions and planes and the regions of the face. We talk about body planes and directions because we need to know the view that we're looking at our x-rays in, so that's why we're going to start there. You can see I've loaded up the different definitions for you. I also have these definitions for you on Quizlet, but let's just review them so we know what we're looking at. So the horizontal plane is going to be any plane that separates the superior end of the body, which is at the top, with the inferior end of the body, which is at the bottom. The transverse plane on our picture is showing the division being right at the waist. However, if we were looking at just the head, the transverse plane would be right here, right below the eyes. Then you're going to have your median or your mid-sagittal plane. The word median right here is going to sound like middle. So this is telling us that this plane divides the body right down the center, okay? And it has to be equal halves. So it's going to divide the body down the center with equal right and left halves. You can divide the body unequally as well. And if you divide the body unequally, then it's called sagittal, okay? So the sagittal plane divides the body unequally. The right and left halves no longer have to be exactly the same. And then we're going to talk about the frontal plane. The frontal or coronal plane is going to be separating the body from the back and the front. So your coronal or your frontal plane is going to start at the crown of the head and divide the body in front halves and back halves. Body directions are talking about where things are located, like organs inside the body, or like the hand and the shoulder. Body directions are in pairs, opposite pairs that work together. So you can see that I've color-coded them for you. So for instance, the first pair we're going to talk about is anterior and posterior. Anterior is toward the front and posterior is toward the back. This is an opposite pair that works together. The other name for anterior is ventral and dorsal. When you think of this, remember, dorsal means back, just like the dorsal fin on a dolphin, right? I'm going to try to draw a dolphin, but I don't think I'll be very good at it. So just remember the dorsal fin on the back of a dolphin. There he is. Looks a little more like a unicorn, huh? Oh well. The next word pair that we're going to talk about is superior and inferior. Superior is toward the top, inferior is toward the bottom. And just like all good anatomy terms, they have another set that means the same thing. Caudal bottom, cranial top, but cranial sounds like crown or crown of the head, so it makes sense. In this class, we're going to use superior and inferior all the time. Our other word pair, medial and lateral. So medial and lateral are opposites. Medial, toward the middle. The word medial sounds like middle, and lateral is going to be away. So anything away from the center. And we'll look at a picture in a few minutes. Proximal, distal. Proximal and distal mean close to the trunk of the body or away from the trunk. So when we talk about these, we'll draw our little man here. Your hand is going to be distal from the shoulder. The shoulder is proximal to the hand. That's because the shoulder is close to the trunk and the hand is away from the trunk. The last two are superficial and deep. Superficial means near the surface and deep means close to the center. So if you have a black and blue on your arm because you bumped into the countertop, it's going to be a superficial black and blue. However, if you have a deep cut, it's going to be closer to the center of the body, so that's where we get the word deep. Brush burn is going to be superficial, not deep. So let's take a look at how that looks on the body. So when we're looking at our nice little anatomic man here, we can see all of these different terms. They're also color-coded here so that they are with their partner. So anterior, posterior, here we go. That's your also ventral dorsal, like we talked about, dorsal fin on the back. So anterior is going to be front, posterior is going to be back, and then ventral and dorsal mean the same thing. Superior and inferior. Inferior bottom, superior top. As you can see here, they have caudal and cephalic instead of coronal. We will use the word coronal to eliminate confusion with another term. But coronal equals superior. All right, and caudal equals inferior. They mean the same thing. Over here we have that proximal distal we talked about earlier. The hand is distal to the shoulder. The shoulder is proximal to the hand. You can see this illustration also with the leg. So the hip is proximal to the foot, and the foot is distal to the hip. The closer you are to the trunk of the body, you call it proximal. The further away you are from the trunk of the body, you call it distal. Our last ones on this illustration are medial and lateral. So when something is close to that center line, which we learned is the mid-sagittal line, we call it medial. When it's away from center, we call it lateral. Some ways to kind of think about this is going to be that your elbow is going to be lateral to your heart, right? Your heart is more of the medial structure. This also has to do with views. If someone is looking at you from the side view, they're looking at you from the lateral view. If someone is looking at you, if you are looking at this person from the center, it's the medial view. And we'll talk more about this when we get into anatomy of the bones of the head and skull, which you will also need to know. The last thing we're going to talk about are the regions of the face. When you look at the regions of the face, you will see there are 11 of them. You are expected to know all of them because they're going to help you later on when we do the anatomy of the bones of the face and cranium. So we have 11 regions. Most of them are self-explanatory. Some of them are not. So frontal region is your forehead, right here. The parietal region is a region that forms the top of your head. So our parietal region is going to be this area right here that forms the top of your head. Then you have temporal. Temporal region is the area by your temple, by your eye. So your temporal region is this whole area. If you put your fingers on the sides of your eyes, you'll be holding on to your temples or your temporal region. Zygomatic is going to be the cheek right here. So the zygomatic region is the cheek region. Infraorbital. Orbit your eye socket. Infraorbital is the area right underneath the eyes. Next we have the occipital region. The occipital region forms the base of the skull. Right here, behind the ear and the base of the skull is going to be your occipital region. Now we get to the actual orbital region, which is the eye. Here is your orbital region. Your nasal region, self-explanatory again, is going to be your nose. The whole thing, top to bottom. The oral region, right here, is going to be the mouth. Then you're going to have your buccal region. Buccal means cheek. Not the upper part of the cheek where you feel the bones. Everybody touch your face at the top where you feel your cheek bones. The buccal region is the soft area of the cheek. That nice soft area right down here is going to be the buccal region. Think of it as the area where squirrels always pack in their nuts. They pack in their cheeks filled with nuts to carry them back to their house. They're putting them in the buccal region. So the cheek bone is going to be the zygomatic region, and the soft area of the cheek is going to be the buccal region. Last but not least, we have the mental region. The mental region is your chin. In fact, the correct name for the chin is the mental protuberance. So the mental region is going to be your chin. So let's recap very quickly. Frontal region, forehead. Parietal region, center of the skull. Temporal region, side of your eye. Zygomatic region, the cheek bone. Infraorbital, right below the eye. Occipital region, the back base of the skull. Orbital region, the eye. Nasal region, the nose. Oral region, the mouth. Buccal region, the soft area of the cheek. And the mental region, the chin. And I think I said this wrong. I'm sorry. Orbital region is the eye. I did not say that correctly. The eye. So this little video is just to help you recap. We'll talk more about this in class, but you can use this to study from and help remember where all these things are. You'll also have Quizlet cards that will help you as well. All right, guys, I'll see you in our next video. Have a great day.